All right.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for coming.
Wow. How's everybody doing? Oh, come on, guys. We woke up surrounded by mountains this morning. How's everybody feeling? Awesome. I was going to start out by telling you guys a joke that was going to blow your hair off, but I see a few of you men have already heard it. Don't worry, guys. I'm there. I'm follically challenged. I'm with you. I see you, brother. Have you guys ever wondered what it would be like to think, act, and behave like the top 1%? We got a bunch of 1%ers in this room. Certainly, Andrew and Eddie. Can we give a round of applause for those guys? What an event. What an opportunity. What a future. I am so pumped to be here. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be in complete control of your emotions despite your current circumstances? Have you ever wondered why some people live such an extraordinary life and why most people simply don't? By a show of hands, in a moment. First, let's do this. Can you guys make this a little more interactive for me? Like, I like energy. I like people working with me. Like, this is our session. Got it? So let's make this, yes, I hear some people out there. Let's make this interactive so you guys can respond back to me when I ask you questions. Raise your hand when I ask you to, but let's be interactive. Also, I really want to have a lot of fun. Anybody in here like F-U-N? I love Hey, I'm in the right room. Let's go. And last but not least, let's take massive action. I got a couple things for you, some freebies, some gifts. Nothing to sell you today, but I definitely have some value I want to give to you at the end of this presentation. So, by a show of hands, how many of you would like for me to share how you can win big regardless of your circumstances? Yeah. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking. All right, by a show of hands, how many of you would like to know where your true power for success exists? Love it, love it, love it. And by a show of hands, how many of you would like to know how you can live the ultimate life of your dreams faster than you could possibly imagine? Love your energy. I see you. Isn't this good? This isn't TV. Like, this isn't just one-way communication. You can see me and I can see you. This is great. All right, in a moment, you will discover how the subconscious mind controls our outcomes in life. I just had a conversation with Larry Yatch. Great conversation. Man, this is important stuff. I'm so happy he touched on it yesterday. And I'm going to go in a little bit more depth today as well. I want to teach you guys how to think like the 1%, how you can think, act, and behave to achieve massive results. I also want to show you how you can control your emotions so they don't control you. Today, I will be teaching you a superpower that all of us already possess. Does that sound good? All right, my promise to all of you, by the end of this presentation, you're going to understand how to use your mind to get what you want in life more than ever. But before I get into that, why is it that 38% of entrepreneurs report experiencing sleep problems and sleep disorders? I know I've been there. Why is it that 53% of entrepreneurs report financial concerns as their number one source of stress? And why is it that 30% of entrepreneurs actually report experiencing suicidal thoughts? If you've had even one of these challenges, raise your hand right now. All over the room, almost 100%. Being an entrepreneur is tough, but I've got some answers for you. You see, everyone seems to be taking the same programs. Everyone seems to be reading the same books. And everyone has the same information on the internet. So why are there such different results? Before I go any further, may I have your permission to tell you a little bit about myself and why you might want to pay attention in the first place? Is that okay? Oh, yeah, you guys are speaking up. I like this. All right, so my name is Coach Chris Patterson. I own 3 different companies. I started a digital marketing agency out of my wife's dining room almost 25 years ago. How do I know it was my wife's dining room? She kept saying, you got to get the heck out of my dining room. Eventually I did. I also started a software company not too many years after I started the digital company, and I've actually generated over $1.9 billion for my clients over those 25 years. I've got 160 people that work for me all over the globe, and I'm really grateful for that because I didn't want to run those two companies anymore, and I don't. I've got other people that are managing it, running it, growing it, and the reason I wanted to get out of those businesses is because I am so unbelievably passionate about what I'm teaching you guys today. This is exciting stuff for me. I can't stop talking about it. I want to have my last breath discussing the importance of mindset. I've got over 10,000 hours studied in human potential and success performance, and I was mentored by some absolute legends in the personal development game. Who wants to know who those people are? Raise your hand. I ain't showing you until everyone raises your hand. Yeah, baby. I was personally mentored by the great Zig Ziglar. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. And I was also mentored by Bob Proctor. How many of you have heard of one or both of these guys? Everybody in the room, all the way across. Legends in the space. I remember I got a phone call after Zig passed away from Tom Ziglar, his son, and he said, Chris, how would you like to help carry on Dad's legacy? And that's why I'm with you right now. I'm also an income acceleration coach with the Proctor Gallagher Group, and I love helping people get from wherever level they're at to the next level and beyond. I also love to spend time with the top 1%ers in our society. I bet you recognize a few of these people. I've gone golfing with Grant Cardone on occasion. Eddie Wilson and I just wrapped up a podcast. It was fantastic. I love learning from these different thinkers. Ed Milet and I have become great friends. Interviewed him like 7 years ago. We stayed in communication. John Gordon, best-selling author. Gary Vaynerchuk, we all know who he is. But what do these people have in common? They're in the top 1%. I've also spent some time with the top 1%, celebrities and influencers, athletes. There I am hanging out with 50 Cent. My man, Michael Chandler. I want to share a little bit about my story with Michael Chandler as well. I've been his mindset coach for 12 years. I've also spent some time with Ice Cube and Eugene Monroe. I just got hired on by the Jaguars for a second round. I'm taking 100 of their employees through my Quantum Leap Mindset program. Oh, that sounds great, right? Well, good for you, Chris. 1.9 billion, hanging out with Fitty. Good for you. Big shot. Well, that's only half my story. Would you guys mind if I got really vulnerable with you today? Some of the things that I'm going to share with you, I've only shared one other time to a very small group. But I feel like the money is Tour and Aspire. You guys are family. So I'm just going to get raw and real. We okay with that? All right. Well, welcome to Loserville. Now, this isn't a place on a map, but I promise you this is where I was living in my mind. How many of you want to go back on a journey to the early 1990s? You ready? Hell yeah! She's my cherry pie. I know I got my Gen Xers in here. Let's go. All right, so here I am back in the early 90s. I'm in my early 20s. I'm the guy in the jean jacket, also known as the Canadian tuxedo. I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and I like to say I was a self-made man. And boy, what a mess I had made of myself. You see, even though I've got a smile on my face, this was absolutely 100%, unequivocally, the most difficult time of my entire life. You see, I was in a season of loss. I dropped out of college. I just couldn't hack it, to my parents' chagrin. I had lost not one, not two, not three, but 4 jobs in a row. I had a horrible attitude. I had terrible thinking. Eventually, I lost all my money, And then I lost the girl that I thought I was going to marry. And that all sent me into a downward spiral of depression. I didn't realize that you could actually have the serotonin in your brain deplete. I didn't know what was happening to me. But I knew that I just felt so dark, so empty, afraid, full of fear. I didn't know what was happening to me. I remember one night I decided, this is it. I've spent a year feeling like this. Driving around the city by myself, punching the steering wheel, angry, crying, bawling, hurt. I can't tell you the pain I was in. I decided that night I was going to go take my own life. I put a bottle of Captain Morgan spiced rum and a bottle of sleeping pills on my nightstand, and I said, that's it, I'm ending it all. I felt like I was on fire, guys. I'm emotional right now talking about it. I wanted the pain to stop. I thought there's one person I'm going to say goodbye to before I go. That was my dad. My dad is a great man, one of the best people. He's my superhero in life. I drove over to my dad's house, and as I got closer, I felt better. I remember it was wintertime, Christmas time, slush on the roads. I finally got to his house. I saw his home. It was lit up with Christmas lights. I walked through the front door. I could feel the heat from the fireplace kicking out. I could smell the home-cooked meal. I always loved my mom's meatloaf. I could hear the Christmas music playing. And I sat down on a couch that I always sat on across from my dad. My dad took one look at me and he said, son, can I ask you a question? I said, yes, sir. You see, he could see in my eyes. I was full of darkness. I was full of pain. He said, Chris, you've tried making money. You've tried doing drugs. You've tried drinking alcohol. You've tried women. You've tried power. You've tried all these different things. He said, when are you going to give God a chance? It was at that moment my father walked up to me and he said, son, he said, can you please just give God a chance? I looked at him and I just burst like a water balloon. I started bawling. I'm like, Dad, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that. He walked over to me and he said, son, why don't you just say a simple prayer with me and then go home and rest tonight? He walked over, he put his hand on my shoulder. We said a little prayer together. I woke up the next morning, thankfully, still here. And this is what I woke up to. This was a pretty good representation of my life. This was my room, and it was an absolute wreck. By the way, I was sleeping on one of those futons. You guys know all those big black futons? They start out about an inch and a half or a foot and a half thick, and they go down to about 2 inches thick. They bend in the middle. Don't worry, I'm not going to judge you if you're still sleeping on one. I looked over in the corner, and I had a corner full of beer cans and ashtrays and another corner full of dirty clothes. It was just a mess. My dad called me about a week or two later, and he said, son, how would you like to go to a success seminar with me? Now, I was a little hungover, to be honest, and I thought he said, how would you like to go to a sex seminar with me? Dad, what'd you just say? He goes, no, dummy, a success seminar. It's over in Michigan. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Anyway, how many of you want to see my supercar back in the early 90s? You ready for this? Come on, baby, it's coming. It's coming. Get excited. There she is. Behold, the 1979 Ford Pinto. I nicknamed it the Silver Bullet. How many of you old school people know the special feature of a Ford Pinto? What was it? Aluminum black? No, that's one of the features, but that's not. It what? It blows up when you hit it from the behind. I'm telling you, nobody liked me back then, and my mom sold me this car. Listen, we ended up over at the Palace of Auburn Hills. We were way up in the nosebleed sections, And I was hungover and grumpy and still had my bad attitude and crossing my arms. This guy's not that good. This guy can't help me. And da-da-da-da-da. But then a man came up on stage, and he was marching up and down with all the energy you could possibly imagine. And the crowd was going freaking bananas. Wow, wow. And he was saying things that I'd never heard before. He was certainly saying things that I hadn't thought before. He was saying things like, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. He was saying things like, do you know you can have everything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want? And then he said something that really caught my attention. He said, you are where you are because of what's gone into your mind. You can change where you are, and more importantly, you can change who you are by changing what goes into your mind. Well, I'm astonished. I look over at my dad, and I'm like, Dad, who in the world is this guy? He said, son, if you don't pay attention to anybody else, he said, please pay attention to this gentleman. His name is Zig Ziglar. For those of you that don't know, Zig Ziglar impacted over 250 million people in his lifetime. He traveled all over the globe, countless speeches, 33 books, many of them bestsellers, tens of millions of CDs and tapes. And many people considered him the greatest salesperson of all time. I remember something happened at the end of his speech. He knelt down on one knee, and he looked at the crowd with all sincerity, and he said, folks, if you guys will simply make a decision, make a real, true commitment to be the best version of yourself, if you take the principles that I've taught you today and you apply them on a regular basis, day over day over day, with consistency, I will see you. And yes, I really do mean each and every one of you at the top. Guys, I felt something for the first time in a very long time. I felt hope. You got to remember, I was a disaster in my mind. I looked over at my dad and I said, Dad, I'm broke. Can you buy me his cassette tapes? My dad said, sure, son. So I went and got those tapes, and I was listening to them over and over and over and over again. I couldn't get enough. Morning, noon, night. I didn't have anything else to do, so I just listened to these tapes. And then I got excited, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call my Aunt Sue, my favorite Aunt Sue. Gosh, I love my Aunt Sue. I said, Aunt Sue, I got some exciting news for you. I can't wait to share. She goes, oh, I haven't heard you excited in a long time. I'm like, just meet me at the coffee shop. So we ended up at the coffee shop, and I came with a napkin, and I was writing down all these things that I wanted for my life. I said, Aunt Sue, sit down, get ready, check this out. He goes, okay. I said, Aunt Sue, here's the deal. I said, I'm going to move to Florida from Canada. I said, when I get there, I'm going to get a great job. I said, when I get that great job, I'm going to do an amazing job for them. I said, not only that, eventually I'm going to have my own company, and I'm going to have a team of my own people. I said, and Aunt Sue, I'm going to buy a house at the beach. Not only that, I'm going to meet the woman of my dreams, and I'm going to have a couple of kids. I said, last but not least, you see that silver bullet out there? I said, one day, I'm going to have a real, true supercar. My Aunt Sue said something to me I'll never forget. She said, Chris, have you lost your marbles? I'm like, Aunt Sue, this is my dream. This is my dream. She said, Chris, you don't even have 75 cents to pay for this coffee. How in the world are you going to do this? Well, I wasn't sure, but I stuck to my desire and I stuck to my dream. When you know it, within the same few months, I ended up in Florida. I got hired by a health club. I started selling health club memberships. I did a pretty good job. I had really good sales, and all of a sudden, after a couple months, one of my managers came up and said, hey, how would you like to be the weekend manager? We want to give you a promotion. I said, okay, I'm in. Let's go. Couple weeks later, literally weeks, they said, Chris, you're crushing it on the weekends. How would you like to be the weekday manager? I'm like, let's go. And then they said, Chris, we're going to give you your own club to manage. I started managing my own club. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. And then I remember getting a phone call from the CEO. He said, Chris Patterson, he goes, your name keeps coming up. He goes, how would you like to move to Texas and run a set of our clubs? I said, well, where in Texas? He goes, Plano. I said, I know, but where in plain old Texas would you like me to go? He said, no, dummy, it's a place. It's called Plano. Just pack your bags. So I ended up working at the Q Explorers Club, and I was teaching all this Ziegler stuff, teaching people how to establish rapport and sales and meet and greet and close and all those things, right? Something happened to me, guys, and I can't wait to share this with you. I'm so excited. Pay attention. This is awesome. I'm sitting in my office after doing a training with my team. One of my employees comes in, boom, kicks open the door. He's like hyperventilating. I'm like, are you all right? He goes, dude, you got to take this next guy around the club. I said, what are you talking about? That's your job. I just taught you guys how to do this. He goes, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. He couldn't even talk. He took out a driver's license that we would collect from the potential members at the front desk. He slid it across, and I looked at it. It said Zig Ziglar. I said, what's going on, bro? He goes, I don't know what to tell you, but Zig Ziglar lives in Plano, and he needs a membership, and we knew if you didn't sell him, you'd kill us. I said, I don't want to sell him. He's the greatest salesperson of all time. He changed my life. I said, this guy's my hero. I said, I'm terrified. He goes, man up and get out there, Patterson. So I got this great idea. I said, okay, I got it. I'm going to pretend like I don't know who this man is. No biggie. Mr. Ziegler, my name's Chris. Welcome to the club. How may I help you? What brings you in? We talked back and forth. I found out his needs. Let me show you the club. Let me match your needs to the club. I matched them all up. And then we ended up going into, this is scary, the closing room. How many of you been in a closing room before? Good. You guys enjoying this so far? We good? So Zig and I end up in the closing room. And I said, okay, I'm going to use one of his closes to close him. So this is called the alternative choice close. Mr. Ziegler, I've got these two options for you. You can join the club monthly for just $45 a month, or if you would prefer, you can pay in advance for 3 years and save 15%. Which would you prefer? Also known as the which close. Well, Zig was looking down at my offer, and then he looked up through the top of his glasses, and he stared me right in the eye, and I got a little nervous. And he goes, son, you know who I am, don't you? What? I know who you are! I turned into a Swiftie. I love you! You're the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. You changed my life. You changed my life. I embarrassed myself a little bit, but he was laughing. He goes, son, let's go with this one because I know you get a better commission on it. You did a fine job today. I said, Mr. Ziegler, is there anything else I can do to serve you? He says, Chris, I got one thing. He goes, I need someone to personal train me 3 times a week. Ding, ding, ding. I said, Mr. Ziegler, I'm going to make you a deal you can't refuse. He started laughing. He said, what's that? I said, I'm going to work on your physical fitness 3 times a week for free if you'll spend just 1 hour a week working on my mental fitness. He looked at me and he said, son, I like your style. How about a hand clap for the young man that closed the greatest salesperson on the planet? Thank you, guys. Do me a favor, grab your pen and paper. I want you to write this down. Quantum leap mindset equals fortune, fulfillment, fun, and freedom. All right, I got to keep moving. They got us on a strict regimen. So this is referring to a program that I teach called Quantum Leap Mindset. This is the roadmap. This is what I did not have when I was going through the hell in my mind. This is what I did not have when my life was a wreck. This is what I needed when I wanted to get to the next level. Now, guys, I've got rights to brag on this thing because I didn't create it. I've taken the most impactful, important information from Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, the greats, and I've combined it into a program. First thing I want to ask you is, what is mindset? A lot of people get mindset all messed up. They think it's the videos they watch on YouTube or the books they read or the people they spend time with, and that's all part of it. But that's really not what's most important. In order to truly understand mindset, we have to understand what a paradigm is. A paradigm is a set of mental programs that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. I thought Larry locked it in really, really well yesterday. If you guys don't understand how important the subconscious mind is, please consider it. Pay attention. This changed my life. It's changed hundreds of people's lives in my programs, and I can't talk enough about it. So, 4 pillars to creating your ultimate life. First, we have to go, what is a paradigm? It's a set of mental programs that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. So 4 pillars to creating your ultimate life. Pillar number 1, I get asked this question all the time, and it's a great question. What is the fastest way to success? Regardless of where you are in your business, regardless of where you are in your life, you guys want to get somewhere else. What is the fastest way to get there? The fastest way to success is to replace negative mental programs with positive mental programs. Is this all making sense so far? You guys with me? All right, so we're going to talk about the stick man here really quick. We have 2 parts to our mind. Larry talked about it yesterday. We have our conscious mind, and we also have our subconscious mind. The conscious mind is our thinking mind. It's what the whole educational system is based on. Go to school, here's your textbook, here's your teacher, remember a bunch of stuff, take a test, hopefully we pass. Great. Nothing wrong with knowledge, but it does not control the trajectory that we take in our lives. What does? It's the subconscious mind. You see, the subconscious mind, also known as our feeling mind, is like 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind as a data storage center. So there's all these little programs that we have. What kind of programs? Putting on a seatbelt, that's a program. Most of the time you don't even remember doing it. Like Larry was talking about yesterday, driving all the way home, you don't even remember what route you took. You see, these are habitual behaviors that are embedded in the subconscious mind. You see, it's the subconscious that controls the body. The body is nothing more than an instrument of our mind. Is this all making sense so far? Everybody with me? Good. So, what are some of these programs you speak of, Chris? Well, through our lifetime, even as babies, we start taking in all this information through our senses. See, smell, taste, touch, and hear. We start learning things, fearing things. Some things are good, some things are bad, but we're being programmed. We must reprogram our minds, all of us. We must reprogram our minds if we want to win in life at the highest level. So, many of us, and this is certainly where I was living in my early 20s, I was full of worry, doubt, fear, anxiety, procrastination, depression, and disease. I was living a life of dis-ease. Now, when we reprogram our minds, we can change over to the right side, which is really the needle mover. There's a certain way to study to actually change the subconscious mind that I teach my students. It's a very effective way. Once you learn how to study effectively, we start to change some of those subconscious programs. When we do, now all of a sudden we can live in faith. We can have well-being and calmness rather than anxiety. Our well-being and calmness is the opposite of anxiety. Then we can start to accelerate instead of procrastinate. We take massive action, and wouldn't you know it, before long, we're living a life that's at ease. I'm living a life that's at ease now. It took a long way to get here, but I'm so grateful for this information because it changed everything for me. Most people are living on both sides of this. Some negative, some days positive, back and forth, and a lot of times it's your circumstances that mess you up. So remember this, the subconscious mind controls 95% of our daily lives. You want to change your business, change your mind. You want to change your relationships, change your mind. You want to change your personal growth, change your mind. That's how we change. I worked with a young lady, Heather Ricard. She, unfortunately, she told me, Chris, I just feel like I'm living the same day over and over again. I feel like I'm stuck in life. You see, she wanted to be a nurse to impact children in the cancer ward, and to no fault of her own, that dream was taken away from her. She cried and she sobbed, and I said, just come to my program. Just join, give it a few months. Halfway through my program, she calls me. She says, Chris, I've got a crazy idea. I remember you saying we should never change the goal, but we can change the path to the goal. I said, okay. I said, this is about kids, isn't it? She goes, yes. She said, I want to help kids more than ever, and I have an idea, but it might be a little crazy. I said, what is it? She goes, well, you know my Frenchies? I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, I'm going to write a children's book about my Frenchies. I'm going to call it Ice Cream Adventures with Pickle Juice and Patty Cakes. She broke out of living in a rut that she was in for years. She created a brand new opportunity to help children, and she has now become, in her category on Amazon and elsewhere, in the top 1% in the children's category. Isn't that fantastic? How did she do it? She simply changed the programming of her mind. I got to go fast. All right, let's talk about typical masses thinking. This is how most people think, act, and operate. This is not the way to do it. Most of us look at our bank account, we judge how we're going to feel from there. Most of us look at how well the employees are doing, we judge how we're going to do from there. Most of us look at how well our kids are, and we think that that's how we're going to behave that day. That's operating from the outside in, folks. I want you to operate from the inside out. So when you're stuck in this typical masses thinking, and by the way, I can't tell you how many times I judge my happiness based on the profit and loss statement at the end of every month. Oh, I had a good month, I guess I'll be happy. Oh, I had a terrible month, I guess I should just beat myself up for the rest of the month. How silly of a way to live. So, it's your thinking that controls your feelings, not the other way around. Your feelings control your actions, and your actions control your results. So if you've got terrible thinking, you're going to have terrible emotions, you're going to have terrible actions, and your results are going to suffer. So what is a quantum leap? A quantum leap is a sudden and significant change. You see, a particle in the universe can travel light years in a snap of a finger. Guess who else happens to be particles in the universe, folks? All of us. All of us. So we need to change the way that we think. We have to have what's called 1% thinking. I call it quantum thinking. When we can have sudden and significant thinking, it changes everything because it ultimately changes our emotions. When our emotions are right, our actions will be right. When our actions are right, so will our results. We'll garner brand new results. What is the difference between a behavioral adjustment and a paradigm shift? It's no good to me for you guys to walk out of here feeling good for a few days. What I need you to do is have a shift in your mindset, and that could take some time, it could take some strategy. But when you have a paradigm shift, you're changed forevermore. I'll never go back to being that young man in my 20s. Never. I'm a completely different human being. I had a paradigm shift because I was putting the right information into my mind consistently over and over and over again. Kyle Seabuth, another gentleman, went through this program, grinding himself into exhaustion, working 18 hours a day as a realtor, no time for friends and family. He was miserable, absolutely miserable. Tried many programs, none of them worked for him. Took this one, he became the #1 realtor in America, according to Wall Street Journal. The average realtor sells, 8, 10 homes a year? This guy sells 500 units a year. Talk about a quantum leap. He created way more time for himself and his family, and then created dozens of revenue streams as well. Remember, most programs are going to focus on just giving you information. Be careful when you guys are taking in just information overload, but you're not changing. That's not the right program for you. That's just a behavioral adjustment. What we want is a quantum leap mindset. We must have a paradigm shift. That's only going to happen when we start to retrain our subconscious mind. You guys getting this? Okay, good. How many of you remember my Aunt Sue? Remember Aunt Sue? Well, I'll tell you this. About 10 years after I'd moved to Florida, I got a call from my Aunt Sue. She says, Chris, I'm so excited I'm coming to Florida. Can you pick me up at the airport? Yes, I'll be there, Aunt Sue. I go pick her up, grab her bags, throw them in the back of my car, And this is what I was driving. I traded in the Silver Bullet. I got the Bentley Continental GT. And guys, I'm not trying to impress you with any of this stuff, but I am trying to impress upon you how important mindset really is. So I got in my car, I looked over at my Aunt Sue. She didn't look back at me. I looked at her again. So what's going on? I go, I guess Aunt Sue doesn't know what kind of car this is. All right, no big deal, whatever. I'm like, Aunt Sue, let's swing by my office. I want to introduce you to my team. Swing by my office, introduce to my staff. Everyone's so nice to her. Everyone's loving on her. She's having fun. I go, Aunt Sue, jump back in the car. I said, let's go to my home in Atlantic Beach. Walked her into my beautiful home, looked at her. She didn't say anything. I'm like, Aunt Sue, I know you couldn't come to the wedding. You were sick, but let me introduce you to my family. Let me introduce you to my wife and my 3 beautiful kids. It was at that second my Aunt Sue said, Chris, can I talk to you on the patio outside? We walked out on the patio. She grabbed me by my shoulders. Her eyes started welling up with tears. And she said, I'm sorry. Guys, this is really hard for me. I just lost her a month ago. I'm sorry. But in her honor, I'm finishing this story. She said, Chris, I didn't support you the way I should have. I'm so sorry. She said, I love you. I'm so proud of you. I said, you did everything you said you were going to do. Do you still have the napkin? Do you still have it? I said, Aunt Sue, I don't have the napkin, but I have the memory very clear in my life. I remember what that conversation. She said, well, I'm sorry. I should have supported you more. I gave her a big hug, and I pushed her back a little bit, and I said, Aunt Sue, listen to me. I said, all you were trying to do was protect me. I said, there was no rhyme or reason that a guy that couldn't afford a 75% coffee could think to go accomplish all these things. But there's something my Aunt Sue couldn't see, folks, and there's something inside of you that other people can't see, and that's your desire to win. You see, we've all been born with a desire, a mission, something to accomplish in our lives. And even though you may have naysayers, even in your own family, go make them proud anyway. Won't you? I'm living an amazing life. I'm spending time with amazing people. I'm doing exactly what I want. I'm helping others. I'm living a life of significance. And it's all because I chose to make a commitment to my own mindset, my own growth, my own journey. And I know I'm in the right room because you guys are doing exactly the same thing. Let me ask you guys, by a show of hands, have you received value today? You guys enjoying this? Well, get out your phones because I got some more for you. I got some freebies. You ready? If it's free, it's for me. If it's free, I'll take 3. That's what my redneck brother-in-law always says. All right. Eddie Wilson and I just met, and he dropped this bomb on my podcast. Entrepreneurs should be spending at least 15% of their week working on personal development, working on your mindset, changing your paradigm. I couldn't have agreed with him more. I'm going to give you guys my free ebook. It's called Road Trip. I wrote this with the great Zig Ziglar's son, Tom Ziglar. I'm also going to be giving you guys, I know you can't see it from the stage, but this thing is frickin'. This is life-changing. I love the information in here. Again, most of it's not mine. But I want to give you guys this roadmap so you guys can get an idea of what it takes to change your mind, change your life from the inside out. And then I want to give the first 30 people a free breakthrough session. It'll most likely be me. I'm going to try to meet with as many people as I possibly can. What's going to happen in these breakthrough sessions? That's Michael Chandler in there, UFC fighter. Conor McGregor chickened out, but we all know that. 12 years ago, I asked Michael in a breakthrough session, I said, what do you want to do with your life? He goes, I don't know, my family thinks I should be a wrestling coach. I'm like, great, but what do you want to do with your life? He goes, I don't know, everybody thinks I should be a wrestling coach. I said, dude, I'm only asking you one more time, what do you want to do with your life? In a nutshell, he finally said, Chris, I think I want to be one of the best UFC fighters on the planet, and I want to be rich and famous. My man, Michael Chandler, is one of the best UFC fighters in the world today. He's rich and he's famous, and this came from one conversation. He said, Chris, I don't know where my life would be if I was continued to live small. In the breakthrough coaching session, I want to bring you through what I call the wheel of life. There's 10 of the most important areas of your life. It's important to know where you're at so that you can discover where you need to go. And we'll also talk about some of the gaps, what might be holding you back. So, go ahead and use the QR code, or if you're old school like me, just text mindset to 904-867-2842. Do that quickly. I'm going to wrap up. Everybody good? I'm going to put it back on the screen here in just a moment, but as I close, you know, we all want to take a quantum leap in our lives. And there's an interesting statistic. Neuroscientists, psychologists, people that study the mind on a regular basis, they've discovered that we're only using about 5% of our potential. Now, in this room, you guys are not average. Let's say we're twice as good as the average person. And you guys are using 10% of your potential. Well, guys, that's exciting, because what that means is we have 90% left. We have 90% left to grow. You guys remember, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you guys to stand, because I want you guys to make a commitment to your own subconscious mind. I'm going to give you a quick affirmation, and I'm going to ask you to stand. That's going to tell your subconscious mind that you're serious about it. Just wait a second. I'll get you there in just a moment. But remember at the start of this conversation, I told you guys we woke up surrounded by mountains this morning? You guys are the mountains. I'm surrounded by mountains all the way through this room. There's lots of sleeping giants in here. Many of you know that you want more. Many of you know that you should be going for it. Many of you know that you're not living up to your full potential. If you want more fortune, stand to your feet. If you want more fulfillment, stand to your feet. If you want more fun, stand to your feet. And if you want, most of all, more freedom, stand to your feet right now. All I want you to do is repeat after me. I will see you at the top. God bless you. Thank you, everybody. I love you all so much.